Hello guys, welcome again um to another episode of you know of our continuous daily updates on politics, economics, and everything that you need to know. So today we're gonna focus on Hollywood, Hollywood effect on the African culture, the African way of life. You can like, subscribe, share, and also engage us on the comment. Without further ado, let's go straight to the topic. Um, Hollywood has been a very big, uh, has been a very big influence when it comes to the African culture, and Hollywood traces its roots when the African continent gained independence uh, after after long years and long decades of colonization. There was a there was a hangover still of the Western influence, and so growing up in Africa, you know, when at that time, Africa didn't have its own foundation, its own system when it came to the media technology. Most of our technology we adopted from the Western sphere, especially when it comes to media. So you find that even though you are an African growing in Africa, most of the things you watch, read, were mostly things that you know were from the Western side, depending on the country that colonized you. So if you're from Kenya or the Anglophones, like the British colonized country, it means you read more about the British. And if you're from the French countries, the same, and the Portugals and all these. And since they're all Western countries, it was easy to also relate with the American way of life. Because I remember growing up, even the television channels, apart from the local shows, the other shows that competed with the local shows were American shows, going from The Bold and the Beautiful, Mickey Mouse, Disney Channel, all these shows. At that time they looked like they were just shows, but when you look back at how the African culture is now, you start to realize that you know the African culture has now become a cocktail of so many things, and you find that that's why probably the African person is confused, because he doesn't know where to relate. He doesn't know to relate with his own culture, to relate with the Western culture he's growing up seeing. I think you can also attest to the fact that even our system of education, you can also attest that even our system of education was not derived from African culture. It was derived from, you know, Western culture. We remember, President Moi hired a Canadian professor to come and, form the 844 system. So uh, when you look at how, the progression until now of how Western, especially Hollywood, the Hollywood effect in African culture and way of life has had a very big impact in how we live. You can, and from my point of view, it's the influence has even become more worse, because yeah, I'm not saying that uh, just to say that everything in Hollywood is bad, but in terms of the African being born today cannot relate with his own culture. And I believe culture is very important, because you need to go somewhere and also experience culture. Because if I travel to Britain, to France, I experience the French culture, the German culture. So I need to, even when to come to Africa, experience the African culture, not to come to a place and you still feel like you're in a small LA. I probably can add something on that. I don't and
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
I hope you can hear me properly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you've said, we are colonized by different societies and different cultures in the Western and European continents,
Yeah.
and it left us with a remnants
Mhm.
of their culture. You see it in the way the buildings that were left, the way we dressed changed
Mhm.
because of the colonization,
Mhm.
the way we spoke changed because of the colonization. And if you think about it, since we gained independence fairly recently in the compared to the Western culture, we haven't lasted long enough to embrace our own culture. So you find that different industrialized countries kind of influence. So you find that in the 1980s, there was TV, and that generation consumed a lot of television. And if you trace it back, most of that television, we watched Hollywood movies, we watched European movies, and eventually the generation that grew up with that culture is our generation. And you find that most guys in Kenya don't even know their roots, they don't know their history. They really copy and paste what we see what we see abroad. And you find that the younger generation really into anything Western, if it's clothing, if it's products, if it's lifestyle. People really that's why you see white people are treated differently from black people, even in our own country, because it's the way we perceive them, because of how they communicated their culture to us. And you find that at that time, movies were very big. At that time, people used to go to the theater, and going to the theater was kind of a way of, if you didn't watch that movie, you're not going to know what's going on in the world. Because at some point, before internet, people used things like cable television, like DSTV, satellite television. And if you didn't have those kind of communication in your house, you're behind. And people who had that kind of communication earlier on maybe in the 90s, in the early 2000s, they're kind of considered people are ahead. And that information is coming from the West. So if at that time you had information like DSTV, or even that time you never heard of internet or cell phones. If you had information coming from abroad, if you're a child, it was Cartoon Network. If you're an adult, it was CNN, and channels like Super Sport, and endless information coming from cable. And you remember that time, most people had normal TVs and aerials, so the programs that are being brought on TV were scheduled. And you find that it was really like a competition to be ahead, to receive this information that comes from the West. It's always a competition. You see now, the upcoming generation really wants to shine in the Western world, especially the Western world, New York. People want to go and be on the billboards in New York. People want to perform in the American shows. And I understand, it's because of, there's more money there. There's a more better working system than we have here. But that has really diluted our culture. Right now, if you're not, if you don't have internet right now, really succeeding in the Western description of success, you're not considered really successful. If you look at even the houses, okay, I kind of consider it that we're being modernized, but it's really, it has blurred the lines between Kenyan culture and American culture. Like you said, we are moving towards a place where when you leave Europe and leave US, you come to another Europe and another US, which is what the economy is going towards. But I think us as the upcoming generation, I think we will really not care about traditions, cultures. We'll care more about succeeding and monetary value, and we care more about how we look. If we're wearing the latest designer from a Western designer, and phones, the way we live, the way we talk, it's all influenced by the American culture, especially in Kenya. We really look towards America if you want to move forward. And even if you do investigation, you'll find that music, even in Kenya, it's mirrored after the Western society. You don't find completely like Tony Nadundo, you don't find that kind of music that is trending a lot. Okay, I'm sure there is.
But it's trending more on the older people. The new generation have no.
Yeah, and it's trending like local dialect music, for example, Luo music, Kikuyu music, you know, Luya.
Mm-hmm.
You find that Western type of music, you know, and and that's the only defect in Kenya. You know, in Africa, we all want a piece of the American pie. We all want a piece of the European pie, but it makes us really look down upon where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really appreciate where we are. We are
and and
constantly
and I feel like we also don't value our culture. Because I
yeah,
remember when growing up, seeing America, Hollywood, I thought America was like the most powerful. I had this,
yeah, yeah.
and it's not just me. I feel like every person who was born in Africa always used to see America like it was the untouchable. Like
Mm.
it was
It was
like,
like the heaven.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
it
like
was like
the pedestal. The yardstick
yeah, yeah.
of how a country you know should be. But
Of what you want,
yeah,
because yeah,
and you see that has also brought so much pressure into the new
and,
generation,
and
since
you know, yeah,
that has brought so much
mm,
pressure to the new generation. That's why someone in Kenya or a
yeah,
village in Kenya or Uganda, wants to want to have expectation of someone living in New York and California without looking
mm,
at where he lives and the situation. And that's why you find that there's a lot of unrealistic
mm,
expectation. Like I'm not saying dreams are not
yeah,
valid, but
yeah,
you can't live in Africa and expect to be as rich as Elon Musk, because those are two different worlds.
mm,
The you know
mm,
the amenities and the amenities that he has access to in America are different from what you have. I'm not saying you cannot be rich in Africa, but you have to understand that your environment won't allow you to be as progressive as someone like Elon Musk, because there are limitation to your environment. Even him, the limitation, but his environment is far more advanced. And that's why you find that how you're saying that everyone is copying the American way of music, of dressing. That also starts imprinting into your mind that that you are like in America. What is done there can be done there. And if you see how the society is now, especially in Africa, there's some kind of anarchy. There's a bit, the new African person is conflicted. He doesn't know his own identity. During Kiswahili, we have a saying that says mwachamila ni mtumwa. Someone who lives his culture is just a
mm,
wanderer. If you have no culture, you're just a
mm.
wanderer. I
Yeah,
don't know if you,
yeah,
yeah.
and you see the wandering a lot in the youth. You find that
I think your internet has connection is.
most youth don't want to tackle the problems in their own country. They
Mm.
want to go.
Your internet connection.
Is it okay
You,
now?
yeah, it's hang. It's hello. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay.
So you find that the wandering culture is really there in Kenya, because you find that most people do not want to solve the problems of their country. They want to go abroad and solve problems in abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they don't want to stay. It's
Mm-hmm.
because the influence is so much.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, yeah, of course you'll get better jobs and you'll get better pay and everything
Mm-hmm.
abroad, but it makes it obvious that staying, you hear most people saying, oh, especially after high school, I don't want to stay in Kenya. Kenya is backward.
Mm-hmm.
You see the way France looks like on YouTube. You see the way California, America looks like. They look clean. They look like the system is relaxed. They look like they don't have insecurities. People don't rob each other
Mm-hmm.
haphazardly. People are not hurting you for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's appealing that our culture draws us away from our own place to fix our own issues,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to go then participate in the culture that they
Mm-hmm.
invented. And if you think about it, like since 2000s, those were the times you started watching movies that
Mm-hmm.
really really made America seem like they're the guys who have it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And not just movies, but also when you met people who are from maybe people
Hello. Hello.
who came from abroad, they always seem like they're more advanced because they had the way they spoke, the way they reasoned. Could you pause for a second? Is it possible? Okay, but let's just continue. So
Why is there
like
an
most
issue with
people,
your network?
I don't know. Might you be downloading anything?
No, mine is better. Just continue.
I don't know why my internet has an issue. Yeah, so a lot of our upcoming generation don't really want to stay in their own homeland country because we have a clash of cultures. There's those people who own, bought land in the past. They now own most of the country. For example, the older generation, they didn't really find things like internet, going viral, culture change, open-mindedness and all those things. So there's a clash of societies whereby we have the older generation from the 1960s who still have the culture of the village. Let me use the term, the culture of the village in them. They still value, their values are different from us because right now in our society, we don't really value marriage as much as they did. We don't value.
And I feel like, there's not, there's nothing wrong with, I wouldn't call Western, I'd call it some kind of globalization, because when cultures mix, things advance, people change, people don't want to stick with the old culture, they leave the bad, especially the bad aspect of cultures, they want new cultures. But I'd love if we had, a country like Japan is as developed as America, but it's had retained its culture. South Korea, you go to China, Chinese society is a very conservative society, like Africans, like marriage is respected, things like that. But when you come to Africa, we are developing while living our culture, and it's because of we've been growing up seeing Hollywood, and I don't want to blame Hollywood because that's that's a business, and also country use art as a way of foreign policy and and diplomatic bargain. If you hear Hollywood, you associate it with America. That's some kind of that's a foreign policy in politics. So that's why all the movies portray America as a superpower, because they need to portray that image to the whole world. Because countries don't influence other countries through military, through sanctions. They also influence other countries through art. Through through music, through movies. And you can see Nigeria is also trying to do the same by pushing its own its own art. You see Niger movie, Niger songs, you relate with with Nigeria. Sometimes even forget that Nigeria is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, because they produce good movies, good music. The same with India, with the Bollywood industry. So countries always have a way of expressing themselves and trying to create a certain image about themselves, which is not wrong. Like the Hollywood aspect of trying to portray America as a superpower. That's a way of getting people on board to believe in your vision. But my issue is that when the people who are receiving that information put down their culture and now start following that, because if you, like I've just said, if you go to Japan is heavily info. It has American military bases there. A lot of American industries are there, but Japanese still retain their culture. South Koreans, the Chinese. You go to the Indians. If you go to any Indian community around the world, they stay together and they still retain the same culture. Most Indians who live in Kenya, their parents came here 100, if not 150 years ago, but they still practice the same culture. They still stay together. But if you look at the normal African person, the black person, to him, he sees his own culture as a baggage. This culture is limiting me from having fun, from,
Yeah, and I think I think that's where we go wrong as the upcoming generation, because we take what is easy and then we leave what is hard, in the sense that in Hollywood will portray that partying, and something like that's where you start seeing things like Sex and the City, which was being brought on TV. It related to a culture where women are not really into marriage. They have many sexual partners and they have many, things like that. And for us, we take what seems fun and we leave what seems hard, because what they don't tell you is that, like you say, that's entertainment. It's they're not there to portray a real something that you want to practice. It's like watching a sci-fi movie like Spider-Man and then going to start looking for ways to swing in buildings and everything. It's just a movie for entertainment, for you to feel good, to be entertained, and then you move back to your life. In fact, I think this upcoming generation of canceling things like marriage and not believing in marriage, honesty, faithfulness, having multiple partners, it's being brought about by the fact that people are just taking what they want instead of actually doing what is actually needs to be done. Because people are taking, even like
people are taking what
dressing.
what they want to hear. Because you remember you telling me about
Yeah.
I think it's not, I think you are telling me, or I can't remember well, but the issue was that 70% or 80% of millionaire or rich people went to college, and the 30% all are self-made 100%, but 70 to 80% of them went through college. But you're telling me that these stories of I dropped out of college and made $1 billion, that is propagated by Hollywood so that it can catch a certain narrative and try to portray to you that, because they know that's the news you want to hear. You want to hear you can achieve success without going through the system.
Like the movie The Social Network, it portrayed Mark Zuckerberg, how his journey from building Facebook to going through the lawsuit. And you find that in that movie, they portray the sweet spot of success. He already had a website, they had money, they became successful, blah blah blah. But what they don't tell you is someone like Mark Zuckerberg is a child prodigy. So what child prodigy means, he was trained from an early age to write software. By the time he was 13, 14, he had already made games. He did a lot. So by the time he's in college, he made something called course match that you could see people who are doing a certain course. And when he built Facebook, it just go viral. He had to make flyers and tell people and really convince people to join the platform. And it was like a very manual. It's like the way you think about changing a car tire. It's a very manual process. There's no automatic thing.
He had to go to integrator.
Yeah, he had to really convince people to. Yeah, and when he started, building a good product that people wanted, there was a lot behind the scene that Hollywood is coming to tell you that, oh, you don't need college. But what they don't tell you, Mark Zuckerberg was taught by a software engineer. So even if he dropped college, he was already trained in a tertiary level.
He was like in some kind of college, like homeschooling.
He was like in university, and Elon Musk the same. Elon Musk was he was in good schools in South Africa where they had access to things like programming and all this program that good schools, like the elite, not even good, the elite schools in Africa, they get like international schools, Kenya, Roslyn. And what they tell you, like, these guys really worked day and night to study and to build their skill. Like even the one-off thing people hear about dropping out of college, most people don't usually drop out of college. Like even Elon Musk has a degree. I believe Elon Musk has a degree. Yeah, and so the Hollywood effect is, things are easy, just go there without any skill. If you're someone who's just walking around having skills. And then Hollywood, another thing they really push is drugs. It's okay to be on drugs and still go to work. It's okay to have some fun. It's okay to take some drugs.
And since you're even talking about the drug issue,
life is not.
And
the mind. Sorry?
I'm saying since you're even talking about the drug.
The internet connection.
Yeah, and I'm saying since you're even talking about the drug issue, it's interesting because you can see how far Hollywood has gone. Because in Kenya this year we had a presidential candidate who was promoting literally when he enters in office, he's gonna promote the use of drugs, and I'm sure that even for him to say something like that and resonate with the population, has to be backed by some kind of Hollywood fantasy of, you can,
Hollywood fantasy, yeah.
yeah, you can use drugs and still be functional.
Yeah, yeah. In Kenya, like we find that most people are in some kind of Hollywood fantasy,
Mhm.
and they believe that things are just going to work out just because they can.
Mhm.
Because someone will tell you, oh, I had this guy did XYZ and became a millionaire.
Mhm.
And even the content creation that's happening in Kenya, it's happening because as you know, YouTube is all about having a loyal audience, and I
Mhm.
think people have managed to get their own audience within the country. But you see, we are still having a problem communicating ourselves to the rest of the world.
Mhm.
And I think the fact that it takes extreme amounts of work. We're talking about Top Gun, Tom
Mhm.
Cruise. If you research the way that movie was made, Tom Cruise was extremely strict. He really,
Mhm.
really did not take any nonsense during the
Mhm.
making of that movie. Those are the things people don't talk about, how it takes a huge amount of precision and coordination
Mhm.
for even to produce something as simple as maybe, not as simple, but something that looks the animations done in Kenya, like Fatboy animations, which is not, I'm not criticizing anything. It's
Mhm.
not to the level of precision that something like, for example, Transformers. Transformers is a movie that looks, American, because we see it as obvious that Americans do the best, but they go through so much struggle just
Mhm.
to convince us that they're better than us.
Mhm.
And that's what now what I was saying. We only take what we want to take. We don't take what is the reality.
Mhm.
Because someone come and say, I'm a movie director, producer, or I have a certain skill that when I show it, it doesn't really show that you have that skill. And it's
Mhm.
because you're constantly convinced that things are easy. But the reality is, for someone like Steve Jobs to run Apple to the level that he left it at, he really, really, really
Mhm.
had to, even at some point become an inhuman.
Mhm.
You heard about Apple, people died in China because of worked. And as you just take the iPhone as, iPhone is the best, but we don't really know that it has a history and a backlog of, this thing is difficult to produce. And these are the rumors you don't in Kenya because you don't live in America. How things are not as good as they portray to be. In America, it's a very competitive state.
Mhm.
You have to be right now in America, the basic qualification I believe is a PhD if you want to be on the playing level. Even if people are saying I dropped out of college, you find that if you want to really compete and be at the top, you have to have a PhD.
Mhm.
And even getting into school is extremely difficult.
Mhm.
Even and these are the things that people don't talk about. Like all this YouTube that's making people rich, it's made by people like YouTube right now. They can't hire you. Probably you don't have a PhD. I
Mhm.
think that's what they're trying to say. Because even the qualifications just to be hired right now as a software engineer and YouTube that challenge. It needs a higher number of people who can coordinate and actually solve problems. Because you can imagine, me with my background with IT, I can tell you, configuring a computer to run a website like YouTube is very difficult.
Mhm.
And I can say the difficult part of things is the Hollywood effect. We take the easy part where it's watching a movie that became successful, and then we think that's how life is. But you go around, you realize that it's very difficult, even just to produce water. For you to have bottled water and put it in a supermarket, it takes a whole lot of effort. And most young people are not going for this kind of careers. Most young people want to be artists, want to be musicians, actors,
Entertainment.
content creators. People want to take the easy route, and we don't understand the reason why there's a Hollywood effect in the first place is because
Mhm.
Americans they solved the hard problems and
Mhm.
they decided that's what they're going to do for the rest of their lives.
Mhm.
For the rest of the American society, they're going to always solve the hard problem.
Mhm.
So the Hollywood effect on us is we take the easy route, we do the easy things, and then we expect a high output, but that never happens.
Mhm.
So you see people are pressured and they
And
get into all this states of mind that like mental illness and all that, because when they started doing something, they didn't see how difficult it actually is.
And I feel like that also puts us in a constant environment and mentality of everything is like a movie kind of situation. Things will work out somehow. How in
Yeah.
the movie, everything work out in the end. The bad guy is defeated.
Yeah.
The good guy wins, and that's the issue with this Hollywood effect on on the African mindset, because I feel like it has just made the African community to be a bit slack, and that's why you can see that a movie like Black Panther can come out and it's a fantasy, and people can be all excited. For once we are recognized as Africans. We have a superhero,
Yeah.
but the person who wrote that movie and the person who owns the comics is a white person. So because we've always been living in that Hollywood mindset.
Yeah, and for Black Panther even to come out, it took the white man to be able to build the infrastructure to produce a movie like Black Panther takes probably 1,000 people to just do the art. And I think what you don't want to tackle, I keep saying people don't like tackling hard problems. If you think about it, we don't tackle problems like going to space and even for a society to be a good society, it's a hard problem, but no one is tackling that problem of trying to make our society as Africans better, trying to grow economy, our mindsets and everything. You find that most people will go for, even just when you walk on the road, everyone is just buying and selling. No one is really inventing anything, and because they'll always be bogged down by question that you find that even so for someone to invest in your company, you have to have already established your business, and your business already has to start making money for someone to be convinced that you can make money as an African. But if you're a white person, please, you'll be given funding. And people think that just because you've seen it in Hollywood, like you said, Hollywood is that movie has been made to be like that person is always going to win in the end. We've watched Avengers, all the movies, they've never lost. They always win because that's Hollywood. That's the Hollywood is you just do something small and it's going to work out.
And Black Panther, the main aim
it's
was
very difficult to
also with a movie like Black Panther, the aim was to catch the emotion of the black people. And that's why Black Panther is one of the best-selling movies, because it was just an emotional movie. I have nothing against the guys who brought the Black. It's a very good movie, but how Africans thought that this, it's like we are in a VR. This is our liberation. We are finally recognized, and it's a movie. So I feel like guys are living, and they need to wake up.
Yeah, people need to wake up, and you need to find out, and you need to see that even the hype of Black Panther in Africa, it was because the Black Americans really hyped it. So as we thought, we took the cue, since Black Americans hyped Black Panther, even us, it's our chance to be recognized as Africans. But when you come to Africa, there's nothing going on. Even if there's something going on, it's very small. Like the percentage of industries in Kenya right now, it's a very small percentage. It's the same, most big companies in Kenya are, aside from Safaricom, are in farming, and anything that's the more, like, it's very difficult. Like, I can just say the fact that we live in a Hollywood mindset, it makes everything very difficult because most people don't want to do the hard things.
Even the politicians, they live in a Hollywood mindset. They live lavish, they have escorts, they live like it's some kind of music video.
Yeah, we see that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if we should leave it there.
Yeah, let's leave it there. Sorry guys, today we had a
bad
bit
connection.
of internet issues. Yeah. So
sorry.
Please like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to hear from us. We'll keep producing videos all the time.
And we'll try to redo this again, maybe in the near future. I know today we had a bad connection. I apologize for that. Thank you guys. Cheers.
Cheers.